The breeze on Tiong Bahru's rooftops was never truly cold, but to Asha Tan, this soft Wednesday morning felt uncommonly crisp. She zipped her windbreaker and bent over a gutter-shaped trough to inspect a ragtag army of butterhead lettuces. The leaves were still beaded with yesterday's thunderstorm, glittering beneath the glow of her homemade LED array. Everything looked healthy. Blink, 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 blink. Asha straightened. The lights were pulsing in a pattern, not the gentle dim-up, dim-down cycle she had programmed to mimic sunlight, but short flashes, then longer ones. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. SOS. She nudged a moisture sensor, wondering if humidity had short-circuited the microcontroller. When it happened again, blink, 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 her curiosity tickled. "That better not be my kale trying to text me," she muttered. The farm occupied a 1970s block slated for en bloc in 2 years. Until then, the landlord was happy to lease the deserted roof to anyone willing to patch leaks. Asha looked up. The LED strips were powered by a Raspberry Pi that also gathered particulate readings from a budget air quality module, something she'd added purely for fun after watching too many maker videos. The Pi controlled brightness. The dirtier the air, the cooler and bluer the lights, mimicking a cloudy day. If pollution spiked above a threshold, it would log data and flash a brief warning. Brief, not Morse. Asha wiped her palms on her jeans and grabbed her phone. The data feed showed PM 2.5 hovering within the healthy range. Yet the event log was flooded with custom override initiated. Someone, or something, had hijacked her lights. She followed a tangle of extension cords to the corner where the farm's Wi-Fi antenna pointed at the science park 1 block east. On the 11th story of the next building, the green glass windows belonged to Southeast Environmental Laboratories, SEL for short. Since last month, SEL had been running field tests on low-cost particulate sensors, and they'd asked Asha for permission to mount a device under her water tanks. In exchange, they had promised to email her a weekly summary of atmospheric data, useful for scheduling plant sprays. An LED tinkering scientist would certainly know how to override her Pi. Asha pulled out a stool, poured herself a mug of kopi she'd brewed on a camping stove, and scrolled through recent messages from SEL. Nothing extraordinary, just boilerplate. But there was something she hadn't noticed before. Each attachment file name ended with a string of hexadecimal characters. The most recent email's attachment was named Tiong Bahru PM Logs 24 Force 53552 Array TXT 5350 5224A translated to SPRJ in ASCII. Savvy hackers loved hidden metadata. Yet why would SEL waste effort on her hobby farm? The lights flashed again. SOS pause, then another phrase. Dash dot 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 dash dot dot dot. That spelled B-L-E, blah, SOS blah, Bluetooth low energy, radio tech her sensors used. "This is getting silly," Asha told the lettuces, who swayed in the breeze as if agreeing. "If Dr. Lim's team wants something, they could just WhatsApp." She opened the Pi's terminal and forced a hard reboot. The LEDs went dark. Asha expected the puzzle to end there, but an hour later, when the sun was high enough that she didn't need artificial light, her inbox pinged. A new mail from Samuel.limisel.asg bore the subject line, "Apologies for the interference, urgent." Inside was only one sentence. "Please come to Lab 1103 at 6 p.m. and delete this message after reading." The request was so melodramatic that Asha laughed. Still, curiosity was fertilizer for a farmer's soul. She typed a quick reply. "Happy to drop by, but why the cloak and dagger?" No answer came. She spent the afternoon pruning bok choy and packing bagfuls for the neighborhood cooperative. Hokkien love songs drifted up from an elderly neighbour's transistor radio, comfortingly ordinary despite the morning strangeness. Yet every so often she found herself glancing east toward SEL's emerald windows. At 5:30, Asher shut the irrigation pumps and descended 11 flights to street level. The shortcut involved cutting through a kopitiam, exchanging nods with Uncle Gopal frying char kway teow, and hitching a lift in SEL's freight elevator, which smelled of cardboard and disinfectant. Lab 1103 was at the corridor's far end, flanked by safety posters. Its door was ajar. Inside, a lone workbench lamp illuminated a tornado of loose circuitry. Oscilloscopes, soldering irons, and dismantled air quality nodes lay strewn across anti-static mats. In the corner, fume hoods hummed like docile dragons. Dr. Samuel Lim emerged from behind a stack of filter cartridges. Oval-faced, mid-40s, he usually carried himself with the crisp confidence of a civil service scholar. Tonight he looked rumpled, his lab coat unbuttoned, and his tie stuffed in a pocket. "Miss Tan, thank you for coming," he whispered. "Your Morse code was impressive," she said. "But honestly, email works fine." His smile was weary. Email can be monitored. So can rooftop lights. Half of Tiong-Bahru could have decoded that SOS. Not unless they'd wired the brightness to particulate readings. He gestured at a schematic on the wall, Asher's very own pie setup reproduced in minute detail. She blinked. "You've been spying on my farm." "Observing," he corrected. "Your sensors formed the perfect outstation for our field network. Unfortunately, we believed someone inside SEL had tampered with our gateway. We needed a secure beacon, and your LEDs were, well, the only infrastructure we controlled off-site." Asher folded her arms. "What exactly is going on?" Dr. Lim drew a breath. 2 weeks ago, our calibration data began drifting. At first, I suspected the haze from Sumatra, but the anomalies didn't match regional trends. Then, last Friday, a visiting professor noticed a faint odor of solvent in the sampling chamber. We ran chromatography and found tetrachloroethylene, an industrial degreaser that shouldn't be in open air. He led her to a computer terminal and pulled up graphs that looked like ECGs spiking into cardiac arrest. "If this chart is accurate," Asher said, "someone's pumping chemicals into the atmosphere? Or into our equipment. Either way, the readings we forward to NI, Singapore's National Environment Agency, are being corrupted. For what purpose?" Dr. Lim tapped a folder labelled Pre-Consolidation. "My guess, to underreport certain emissions. There's a waste-to-energy plant across the harbour applying for a permit to expand. Their lawyers have subpoenaed our data to prove compliance." "Sabotage to secure a licence," Asher murmured. He nodded. "We intercepted a message implying another data wipe tonight. That's why I signalled you. We need an external witness." Asher chuckled dryly. "I'm a lettuce farmer. Why not call the police? And inform them we relied on covert Morse through someone's vegetables. We'll be dismissed as paranoiacs before the paperwork gets filed. Better to collect incontrovertible evidence first." He showed her a matchbox-sized sensor. "Place this on your roof. It'll sync with your Pi and stream encrypted logs directly to my private server." Asher held up the gadget. "You trust me, a stranger, with your smoking gun? You run a zero-pesticide farm on a shoestring. If you were for sale, some conglomerate would have bought you already." Flattery earned him a micro-smile. "All right, Dr. Lim. But if the saboteur realizes I'm involved, my kale might not be the only thing getting trimmed. We'll keep you anonymous. Like the author of today's light opera?" He conceded the point with a rueful shrug. Asher pocketed the sensor, turned to leave, and nearly collided with a young man in a monogrammed shirt. His visitor's pass read Kelvin Chu, Legal Liaison. He regarded them both through rectangular spectacles, expression blank. "Dr. Lim, board meeting starts in 6 minutes, Kelvin said. "The chairman's waiting." "Understood," Lim replied. Kelvin's gaze flicked to Asha. "And you are?" "Neighbour," she answered. "Here for free air conditioning." She strolled away before he could probe further. Back home, twilight cloaked the city in violet haze. Asha climbed the steel ladder to her rooftop, her sneakers squeaking on the rungs. She strapped the new sensor to a PVC pipe, patched its wires into the pie, and watched status LEDs blink azure. The lettuce riot below glowed aqua in response, serene, oblivious. Satisfied, she fetched dinner, a cardboard box of nasi lemak, and ate perched on the ledge, surveying neon-stitched highways. She liked the notion that her modest patch of greens might protect an entire city's lungs tonight. Midnight found Asha awake on a camp chair, noise-cancelling headphones on, laptop balanced atop a cooler of Mizuna. Dr. Lim had granted her live access to the feed, rows of timestamps accompanied by PM 2.5 VOCs and an unfamiliar metric labelled Delta Q. So far, peaceful. She poured herself chrysanthemum tea from a thermos. The minute hand hit 12:13 when alarms erupted, literally. Her pie's buzzer screeched and numbers on screen skyrocketed. Delta Q leaped from 1.2 to 7.9 in seconds. The lettuces burst into disco. Cobalt flashes splattered across the rooftop. Asha leapt up, banged her shin, and swore. Was someone releasing toxins into the air or hacking them to fake it? Either possibility demanded witnesses. She dialed Lim's encrypted chat. No reply. Heart banging, she scanned the neighbouring rooftop. A figure in a white lab coat stood by SEL's exhaust vent, silhouetted by the crescent moon. The person shoved something metallic into a grate, then vanished down a stairwell. She zoomed her phone camera. The image was grainy, but she caught a glimpse of rectangular spectacles. Kelvin Chu. Time for the police, after all, Asha muttered. But she hesitated. What if law enforcement contacted SEL's senior management first? Kelvin, as legal liaison, might bury everything. She needed another ally. Her mind jumped to Uncle Boone, retired radio operator, Morse enthusiast, and self-appointed guardian of their block. He lived 2 floors below. Asha bolted downstairs, banged on Uncle Boone's door. He opened in a pagoda-patterned sarong, eyebrow raised. "Your LEDs giving you attitude again?" "In a way. I need you to record them," she explained in gasps. The old man's eyes gleamed with mischief. "Let me grab my tripod," he said. Back on the rooftop, he set up a DSLR, configured long exposure, and began filming the LED frenzy. Meanwhile, Asha downloaded every log file onto a thumb drive. When Uncle Boone signaled he had 20 minutes of footage, they secured the files inside a waterproof envelope. "Now what?" Boone asked. "Now we go fishing," Asha said. They descended, hailed a midnight taxi, and rode to the NEA's 24-hour ops center in Jurong. Inside the windowless lobby, a duty officer raised an eyebrow at the barefoot senior citizen and a farmer smelling of fish fertilizer. Still, official badges did their magic. Asha presented her envelope, invoked words like industrial sabotage, and insisted she had empirical data. Within half an hour, 2 investigators ushered them to a conference room smelling of stale coffee. They watched the LED video, then reviewed the sensor logs. The Delta Q spike correlated with a distinct chemical signature, tetrachloroethylene, the same contaminant Lim had cited. Where did you install the sensor? One officer asked. Asher gestured at the rooftop on Google Maps. And you saw someone tampering with SEL's vents? I can identify him. The investigators exchanged professional frowns. We'll dispatch a team. Asher phoned Dr. Lim again. This time he answered, his voice frantic. Where are you? She asked. In the server room. Our data's wiped. Kelvin tried to lock me out. I think he's still in the building. Stay put. Authorities are en route. But Asher's instincts nagged. If Kelvin believed Dr. Lim possessed incriminating logs, he wouldn't leave loose ends. She pulled an officer aside. We need to check on Dr. Lim now. Miss Tan, please let us handle. Listen, if Kelvin's destroyed one lab, he might torch another. Lim's in danger. Her earnestness, coupled with Uncle Boone's upturned palms, convinced the officer to radio the tactical team at SEL. At 2 a.m., Asher found herself back in SEL's corridor, this time flanked by NEA officers and building security. The fluorescent lights flickered as they strode toward the server room. A sharp chemical odor greeted them. Asher's nose twitched. Acetone. The door was locked. One officer produced a swipe card. They burst inside. Dr. Lim crouched behind a rack, coughing. Kelvin stood by a toppled solvent bottle, frozen. A thumb drive protruded from a server, its LED flashing feverishly. Hands up, a security guard barked. Kelvin lifted his palms. His expression, finally unmasked, was fury tinged with fear. It's not what you think, he stammered. Data redundancy. We'll talk at headquarters, the officer said. They escorted Kelvin away. Asher helped Lim to a chair and handed him a pocket pack of tissues scented with pandan. Your timing, he wheezed, was immaculate. Credit my lettuces, she said, and their cinematographer. Lim chuckled despite himself. Morning crept over Singapore in swirls of peach gold. Asher, exhausted yet exhilarated, returned to her rooftop. The LEDs glowed soft pink now, the pie's logs blissfully steady. She brewed kopi, leaning over the parapet to watch the city stretch awake. At 8, Dr. Lim rang. NEA Forensics retrieved deleted backups from our off-site mirror, he reported. Kelvin confessed he was paid by the waste plant's consulting firm. They needed our monitors discredited during the license review. Your footage sealed their prosecution. Glad I could help. She eyed a row of kale, leaves fluttering in the post-storm sunlight. But please, next time use WhatsApp. Lim laughed. Deal. By the way, with your permission, SEL would like to sponsor your farm as an official urban air reference site. Grant funding, upgraded sensors. Asher almost dropped her mug. That sounds miraculous. You've earned it. She hung up, grinning broadly. Uncle Boone shuffled onto the roof carrying kaya toast. Heard you saved the world before dawn. World's a big word, she said. Let's say I saved the neighborhood salad. Boone chuckled, then pointed at a cluster of cherry tomatoes ripening under the gentle pink glow. How about thanking them with a little fertilizer? Yes, boss. She fetched a jug of nutrient solution. As she watered, a line of tiny LEDs pulsed, this time exactly as programmed, signaling perfect air and happy plants. Asher breathed in the rooftop scent of wet leaves and city wind. For the first time in 24 hours, nothing blinked frantically. No secret messages, no industrial chemicals, just photosynthesis and the faint hum of the city she loved. Some mysteries, she mused, sprouted in darkness. But with the right light, LED or otherwise, the truth would always grow green and undeniable.